Inflation came in hot, 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 and the markets responded not so favorably. We'll be discussing that, the latest with GameStop, and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Money Never! Thanks for joining us today, everybody. As we get going, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember, nothing we say is financial advice, so please do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, we got what the market did not need and did not want, depending on what side of it you're on. Hot inflation data, core PCE coming in at 2.8%, higher than last month, higher than expectation. Great indication that the Fed, it ain't cutting in June. Or May, and it may not cut in June either. So the markets are eating a whole bunch of poop at the moment. Dow is down almost 700 points. NASDAQ down 2.5%. S&P down just under 2%. Tech is getting smacked right in the dick. You know, we're seeing Coinbase tanking, Amazon doing very poorly, Netflix pulling back, Tesla giving back some of its gains. So it is pretty ugly out there. I know you want to talk about Japan as well. We'll talk about GameStop after their earnings, but how are you doing on this lovely Friday, and what are your overall feelings on the market as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be here. Those are rookie numbers, in my opinion. I think we're going to be seeing some bigger red candles in the not too distant future. But, it was a really interesting thing. The other day, I was expecting us to rally a little bit higher in pretty much all of the equities, NVIDIA, the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow. And then stuff just started to get really weird, right? We started to see that things that were kind of bullish weren't pushing the market up. We were starting to see a lot of things change with the treasuries, kind of in a period right now where I believe that we're in low liquidity. We're seeing a lot of money just not flowing into these equities. There's no reason for it to be flowing into some of these equities as they continue to pull back. And there's no bounce. There's no one actually buying a lot of these bottoms that are coming in the market. So I was looking at it and I was like, you know what? I think it's time to flip bearish. And also volatility was doing some weird stuff too. So right now, I think we're in a perfect storm for something to happen in the markets where we see a really bad few days, maybe a really bad week, and maybe that's another 9% drop in the market. That's not necessarily what a lot of people want to see, but across the broader indexes, I think that is pretty reasonable given what we're expecting with, no one's talking about the yen carry trade right now. There's very few people that are absolutely talking about it. Japan also having some things that kind of hint at there might be an emergency rate hike at some point, maybe in April, maybe we get to May and that's when it happens. But there's a lot of things out there that just are not bullish whatsoever. We got the tariffs coming in. Trump is opening his mouth. Anytime that guy's lips separate, you got to understand that volatility is in the market for the foreseeable future. So that being said, I'm kind of fine with this. There's a lot of volatility. That's a lot of opportunity to make money. But at the same time, it's like, I think a lot of people who enjoyed the days of Joe Biden of just easy money, QE, going to be very sad, at least these first 2 years of this Trump presidency.
GM House, thanks for joining us. Yeah, and we're seeing a flight to safety right now in the markets. I mean, gold hit another all-time high today. It got up to 30.86. We're seeing bond yields falling across the board as people are moving money into some safe returns in the short and long term. So a lot indicating that the market is just, I don't think people were discussing how much was riding on today's PCE reading. Like, so much attention has been on tariffs and everything going on with policy there. And yeah, I was like, oh, inflation's coming down. And there was that recent CPI that came in under expectation that people were like, oh, so PCE is going to be fine. Nope, not the case. And the markets are panicking right now. Let me pull up the latest CME numbers because I want to see. I mean, it's pretty much locked in at this point that there's not going to be any movement in the May meeting, but I want to see what happened with the June and July probabilities.
I will say, too, if you look at the 10-year versus the 2-year right now, 2-year, it's below 4%. So everyone is trying to lock in those short-term, easy 3 to 4%. So maybe people are hedging, expecting that the market's not going to move more than 4% for the next year or so. 10-year still ways to go, but it's really interesting to see how some of these things are repositioning, and I'm very excited to see what the futures look like, the CME.
So interestingly enough, the probability, according to them, of a rate cut actually increased today.
I agree.
Up to 16.5%. For June, it's now at a 65% probability that we'll be at 400 to 425 basis points, and 12% that will have had 2 cuts by then. So markets are now thinking that maybe the Fed is just shit the bed, and it's time to start cutting either way.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too, right? Obviously, the core inflation still not good. PCE not necessarily great, and this is not just the United States. Japan last night put in a higher than expected CPI. I think they're at 2.9% now. I think the expected was maybe, I think it was like 1.9 or something like that. So obviously, very fucking hot in Japan. That being said, the only reason that we would get a rate cut is because there's no liquidity. They've pretty much kept rates flat for a period of time. They've held it, and the market has ran out of, reverse repo has actually gone up a little bit here, but the BTFP is gone. There's no necessarily vehicle for liquidity that these banks can rely on. So we're getting into an extremely illiquid state. And this is why I continue to say that the Japanese yen carry trade is the biggest threat to all of currency, all of equities, all of every single thing in the market right now. And then, a rate cut would probably be the worst thing for the gold market right now. So there's a lot of things that are going to be just back and forth, capital moving from asset class to asset class. It's going to be very fun, I think, for the next 6 months, because right now, I think the markets also agree that the Fed is pretty much, I think they failed. I think a lot of people feel that the Fed has failed at this point.
Yeah, the Fed is just, it's been too little too late over the last few years. I mean, when they started raising rates, it was too little. When they had to kind of like begin to pivot, they waited too long. They raised too much. It's just, it feels like they really botched it, and we're going to be paying for it for maybe a while. Hopefully we can bottom out, find some local bottom here soon. But this is when having cash on hand and like we've discussed, managing your finances, managing your revenue streams and income, and being able to acquire assets. Maybe it doesn't rebound this year. Maybe it takes a year or two, but I still think we're going to continue to see good buying opportunities, and we're approaching some of the price targets that I want to start DCAing, at least for crypto. I've already made some stock buys. I haven't really done much with crypto though, but we're getting close, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump over to Japan real quick, because this is going to encapsulate everything that's going on in the markets, especially once we get these tariffs on April 2nd. Again, if we get them, this guy's just going to keep going back and forth. We know this. That's the volatility that we expect going into April OPEX. The window is open right now. Looking at the Nikkei real quick, we could see that the Nikkei absolutely ate shit the first half of the night. Second half of the night, it rebounded. Probably some type of intervention from the BOJ. But that being said, this key level, I tweeted out about this. I said that 36,830 was the level to break. You break that and you hold underneath it, this thing is going full April 1990. This is going to drop, 30, 40% until it finally finds a bottom. And that could be, I don't know, maybe 5 years at that point. But it's going to also lead to extremely weak yen if we continue to see that. So this is the level that they don't want it to go beneath. It's already been beneath there once. Obviously, the first time the yen carry trade unwound, and then obviously the rebound that we got in September. But March we had a really big scare. We got above it, ran out of steam. We can see that it's going to start rolling over. We're going to break below this. I think we're going to break below this in April. And if history rhymes or repeats, it would be 35 years to the month of when it completely unwound back in 1990 after hitting all-time highs. So that's something we're looking at. We're also looking at the yen. It's in a massive bear flag. I don't care what anyone says. You rallied underneath. You crashed underneath it. You rallied up into it, but you're seeing that the volumes are extremely weak. and you're also seeing that we're extremely overbought on the stochastic RSI. This thing's going to roll over. The yen's going to continue to get stronger, and that's not a good thing for currencies in the short term, especially right now that we're seeing such a bad move in the market today. If we continue to see this, you're going to continue to see strengthening across the currencies, weakening maybe in the US dollar a little bit for a very short period of time. We have the ability to see the yen just climb and continue to get stronger over a short period of time. That's the unwind. That's the carry trade unwind. Where does it go? I don't know. 141 is obviously a key level to watch, but Nvidia dropping how much today? Nvidia's down, 1.12%. Okay, not too much, but other ones that are in the trade, obviously the Mag 7, not good for those trades. The currency gets stronger and the equities that they're throwing them into aren't necessarily performing. That's pretty much what we talked about, even with Michael Saylor and the convertible bonds, that eventually that will blow up in their face. That's just how you lose a trade, and you will probably see margin calls to a great extent in Asia at some point. The date I'm looking at, oddly enough, is a date that you pointed out when we looked at Bitcoin last time, April 7th. April 7th is going to be a critical day. Maybe nothing happens next week with all the tariffs, but I think with the adjustment period, seeing how everything plays out and how other, central banks have to essentially do a course correction, and other, countries have to do course corrections on whatever Trump pretty much outlies for them. That's not even a word, is it? Lays out. Oh my gosh. Lays out. Something was coming out. It just wasn't in the right order. Yeah, so pretty much what he lays out, and they're going to have to, think on their feet. Everyone does the same thing or does something wrong. One person does something wrong. You're going to see Forex, swing pretty violently. The yen will probably get a lot stronger. That being said, we talked about convertible bonds. Let's pull up GameStop because that's had quite of an emotional past few days. They had earnings. They beat on earnings. They kicked ass. It was absolutely a great earnings call. They have no debt. They had $4.6 billion worth of cash on hand. And, they're closing more stores. But at the same time, a company that has $4.6 billion worth of cash on hand, no debt, beat earnings. I think there was 0.3 cents per share or 30 cents per share as opposed to I think 9 cents. It was a huge beat. Point is, the next day, Ryan Cohen announces that they're doing a convertible bond sale, which is pretty much what everyone on Twitter has been saying is dilution of the GameStop stock. It's not necessarily based off of what the plan outlines. It lays out. Did it twice. I can't believe I just did it twice. What the plan lays out, April 2030 is when that convertible bond pretty much matures. So either they issue the stock at the price or they just pay it out outright. There's no interest on this bond whatsoever. This is actually a pretty bullish thing. And people are like, well, why do they need to, get this 1.3 billion up to 1.5 billion if they have 4.6 billion on hand? Well, maybe they're doing something with that 4.6 billion. They're just saying that they're going to use this money to buy Bitcoin potentially. They haven't announced that they are. This guy is trading the market. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but Ryan Cohen is actually a really good trader. He's their CEO. He's made a lot of money even before Chewy, just trading in the markets. So I don't think he's, dumb enough to buy this market up here for Bitcoin. I think he's just saying that so they kind of know in their mind, okay, this is what we're building towards. Eventually, something's going to come out. I think we're seeing April 1st. We're going to find out who the buyer of these $1.3 to $1.5 billion convertible bonds is. That being said, it's not in the U.S. as well. If it was in the U.S., that means that would have been a pretty easy way for a lot of hedge funds to access those shares and short them. And what we've seen yesterday since the convertible bond sale is that 38 million more shares than were available shorted yesterday on GameStop. Complete naked short sales. That's illegal. So pretty much this market is so leveraged to the point where they're shorting GameStop that there was 38 million more shares than actually traded yesterday, completely shorted. And that's why you also saw this coming down. This is also a lot of just the bond sales there. The supposed dilution, it's not. Still the same amount of shares in GameStop as there was yesterday. 2030, different story. That being said, this is probably going to get to a bottom at some point. We're going to find out who the buyer is come Monday. A lot of rumors. It's probably the Saudis. There's a lot of people with a lot of money over in Qatar, Saudi Arabia that have been seen pictured with Ryan Cohen and Michael Saylor. I wouldn't be surprised if that's who it is. It's probably one buyer. It's not multiple. And also makes sense why the shares are not allowed to be put into the U.S. I don't know. I think a lot of people are overblowing this. I think this is actually an extremely bullish move. Yes, we broke out of this descending triangle. We broke out of it right back in it. Doesn't mean that we haven't broken out of it completely. I think once we get closer to this April 17th OPEX, we get this Japanese yen carry trade, a lot of low liquidity. You can't really short the stock much more, especially if people are starting to call some of their stocks to when they call to exercise them. They're going to have to deliver them. If they don't deliver them, then they're going to have to buy whatever is available on the market. Nobody's selling. You could see this, be the short squeeze that we saw in 2021, maybe even higher. So that's kind of my pitch for what's going on with GameStop. It's very interesting. I'm upset it's not up here, right? It was 29.79 after earnings, and then obviously you got a massive gap down. But the good thing about this move down, and it probably is a little bit more down, I would say, is that we filled many gaps to the downside, right? We're just filling gaps, and at the same time, what is it also doing? Potentially trapping more shorts that have to get out of their position. Someone posted yesterday that I think most of the shorts right now would need GameStop to go below $1 for them to be in profit. That is because they've exactly, and look where it is, $21, right? So in other words, you need this company to completely just bust. And right now, it's, if I may, the best company on the stock market that is publicly traded. No debt, $4.6 billion in cash, add another $1.5 billion in no interest loan. We're talking about the best stock out there, and they're trying to short this thing to oblivion because they're so they messed up the trade so bad. So all you need, one roaring kitty tweet, one Japanese yen carry trade to unwind. This thing's going to be lights out. Now, do I think that they're going to shut off a lot of the exchanges? Probably. That being said, that's why we look to other things that they're banking on going up. UBS, probably FFAI. I continue to push this. It's obviously coming down a little bit today. Broader market pullback. I'm not surprised that this is coming down. That being said, whenever GameStop pumps, so does this. This is in December. GameStop had a little bit of pump around the 18th. Started seeing this, went to $4. So that's a 4x. Come back here to May, except these charts are a little bit weird now. August. This is the one with the yen carry trade. You saw it go from 289 all the way to 1140. So there's still a lot of things out there that you can make money. They're not going to shut down this one low cap car company on Robinhood. I wouldn't assume, right? It's $87 million worth of market cap. GameStop, I believe, is like $9 billion right now. So yeah, you might get GameStop that gets shut off by Robinhood, Fidelity, some of these other ones are all probably going to do it. That being said, there is other ways that you can make money. It's how they were going to make money, just kind of hedging their bets against GameStop going up. I've talked too much about GameStop. I'm so stoked. I'm excited for a Roaring Kitty tweet. Where should we go next from this?
Let's go to Bitcoin. I think today, when this data came out, seeing how gold responded, it was just a reminder that while we may have belief in Bitcoin long term, it is still not the safe haven asset that a lot of people want you to believe it is. The BlackRocks of the world. Like, there's still a lot of skepticism out there. When you see gold hit a new all-time high, meanwhile Bitcoin gives up a week worth of gains in a matter of a couple hours, it's not the greatest sign for the short-term health of Bitcoin, in my opinion.
Not at all. And honestly, what you want if you're a Bitcoin holder right now is this thing to break out of its wedge, right? You keep finding resistance. I mean, it's Bitcoin right now is telling you multiple times, hey, it's probably not going to break this line of resistance. You pointed out, I thought it was going to break out earlier, but then you pointed out last show, it's like, oh, maybe I should have this trend line from up here. That being said, look where it lines up. Sunday, April 6th, which would be for us, April 6th to 7th of April for Japan. That's where it kind of converges. It's where you're going to get the apex, where at some point it's going to be make or break. You're probably going to break to the downside if the broader market is heading that way. Bitcoin might be a great asset in a bull market. Obviously, it's an appreciating asset. It's in a bear market right now. You have to understand that this thing is still pretty much in its infancy, right? How much money is in Bitcoin right now? What is the market cap? Let me just pull that up real quick. It's well over a trillion.
1.66 trillion.
Yeah, yes, that's a good amount of money, but at the same time, think about how many people own Bitcoin too, that can easily move the market, just whales, a lot of people that have had it for a long period of time. they're going to be trading this too. We have to remember that. And now that with TradFi is in the game too, they don't really care about holding this thing. It's just going to be, how can we make money? The computers, the algos are going to be trading this back and forth. It never sleeps. It's 24/7. You might get some low volume here and there. I think there's a little bit of low volume currently. Again, if the price is going up and volume's coming down and it's lower, I'm not surprised by these rejections that we're seeing on this red candle. We're down, 3,500 today? It's about 4%. Looking where we could potentially go by May, and I think that we will have a few bullish months before it's, more downturn. Say from where we are currently to some of the levels, it's about 11% drop to 73K. Next one would be 60K at about 26, right? And I'm not saying we're going to go below that. We could. I don't really see that. I think this is even a stretch here, the 60K. I think we're definitely going to go to the 73K. And if we lose that because, I don't know, something really bad happens in the market that we just aren't prepared for, and there's a huge liquidation, I should say, fire sale, it's 60K is probably the next level. And I'm not surprised if we break out of this a few days before, but I think it's going to get closer and closer to that weekend of Friday, April 4th, all the way till Monday, April 7th. At some point within those few days, there's probably going to be some big sellers that we just don't expect. And that's when you lose this triangle right here. This is exactly kind of what we've expected. Rejection from the top, trade within this. Closer we get, break to either the downside or the upside. I don't think it's going to be to the upside. Just my opinion, not financial advice. Is there any other cryptos that matter?
It doesn't really feel like it, but
everything's been really quiet on the timeline, right? I've not seen anyone showing anything. Solana right now, it's down 6% or so. Again, they're all putting in very similar patterns. These are bearish patterns on the short term, right? These are all bear flags breaking down from, they haven't broke down from completely, but it seems like all of crypto for the time being outside of Bitcoin is trading in a very similar pattern. Let's see, total. Yeah, even the total market cap's doing the same. Total 2, total 3. Feels like there's like a stranglehold on the entire alt market, and it's all reliant on whatever happens to Bitcoin. Obviously, it makes sense with Bitcoin dominance being 61% right now, right? Almost 62%. So not surprising.
Not surprising at all. I got nothing else. I'm exhausted. My kid has been sick for my entire family's been sick for 2 weeks, and it is just brutal. So I'm all good. If you are to wrap it for today. All right, we're going to call it. Thank you to those of you who joined us. We'll be back on Monday. If you have not yet, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, all that good stuff. Have a great weekend, everybody. Get out, enjoy some nice weather, touch grass. Everything is gonna be all right. Get ready to maybe buy the dip. That's all I got for you today. Love you guys. We'll see you on Monday.
Take care, everyone.